Hello, scholars. Welcome to our work today in the packet on Balto of the Blue Dawn, Chapter 8. We have quite a few vocabulary words that we are going to be reading in our chapter today. Frantic, right, means wild with fear or anxiety. You might remember a few chapters back, we had the word frantically, right, which meant you were distraught it was in a distraught way with fear or anxiety, right? So frantic again is this, you're feeling, right, very wild, very worked up with fear or anxiety, right? You might feel frantic about a big test that's coming up because you didn't study and pay attention, right? Something like that. Frantic. Where frantically, we were talking about if you're looking around in like frantically for an assignment, right? You're doing it with fear or anxiety as well. So frantic. Floundering means you're struggling helplessly. And so if someone who's having trouble swimming, for example, is floundering in the water, right? They're struggling helplessly, floundering. Right? Eager, wanting to do or have something very much, right? Think about, right? Many of us are feeling eager to go back into the building for on-site learning, right? Many of us are eager to continue learning offsite from home, right? Or you might be eager for your birthday, right? Because you're having your favorite cake, right? Eager. So if you're eager for something, you're wanting it, right? You're eager for it, you're excited for it, you want it to be there. Catastrophe, an event causing sudden damage or disaster, right? Catastrophe. So we say earthquakes, right, are a catastrophe. Tornadoes could be a catastrophe, right? Hurricanes can be a catastrophe. A fire could be a catastrophe, right? An event causing sudden damage, a disaster. Windswept means exposed to strong winds. Right? So where I lived in North Dakota before moving here, right, it was a large open area that was often windswept, meaning it was exposed to very strong winds. And livelier, more full of life and energy, active, right? Are there some days when you feel livelier than other days? Do you feel livelier after having a whole bunch of sugar, perhaps? Livelier. So, scholars, we're going to encounter all of those words in our reading today, and a couple of them will also tie into your packet work. So, come back to this spot in the video, this slide, and have it be a helper, a tool for you. So that brings us to today's reading. Today's reading is chapter 8. So yes, this is the point where you want to pause this video and go click on the video in the post to listen and follow along with me reading chapter 8. Or you can pause this video and read chapter 8 with someone or to yourself. But the thing is, pause this video and don't continue it until after you've read the chapter. All right, so you're listening again, which means you have read or listened to chapter 8 and are ready to continue with your packet work. So looking at our work for chapter 8, scholars, chapter 8's work is 20 and 21. We're going to look at two questions on page 21 together. This first one is reflect, right? We're thinking back on this. No, don't unhook him. We can't lose Balto too. Jack said that to Annie, but why did Annie unhook Balto? So we're going to start out with a good starter to this, right? Using words from the question. Annie unhooked. So scholars, there's that prefix we worked with, right? Un means not. So if you're unhooked, you're not hooked, right? So if you're unhooked, you're not hooked up anymore. So Balto is no longer hooked up to the harnessing. So Annie unhooked Balto. Ooh, why? My favorite word. Do you know what it is? Because she. Now let's think for a moment, scholars. Do you remember why she unhooked Balto? Annie unhooked Balto because she thought. Here's what I'm thinking. See if what you're thinking matches. He could find the. What is it that they are missing, right? You could write the package, right? The serum, right? That missing package of serum, right? So she unhooked him thinking, right? She thought, she believed he could find it. Do you remember that part? That was a really key moment in the chapter. Then, scholars, the other part we're going to look at is right down here at the bottom, the mood. What is the mood at the conclusion of chapter 8? So I think what we should all do is grab our books. Right, let's go back to the end of chapter 8 because cite evidence from the chapter to support your answer. So we want to look at the end of chapter 8 again. So I'm, scholars, on page 94 and 95, right, looking at my book again. And I'm thinking, what is the mood? Right, we're back. We made it to Nome, he cried. Hooray, said Annie. So, what would you say that mood is? Hooray, the medicines arrived. Right? So, based on that, let's try to put that into our own words. What is the mood at the conclusion of chapter 8? At the, we could write the word conclusion, right? At the conclusion or end of chapter 8, the mood is, what do you think? Joyful, happy, excited, glad. I'm going to write joyful because, oh my goodness, my favorite word again, 2 times on one page. Oh, this is a great day, scholars. At the conclusion of chapter 8, the mood is joyful because, right? Here's where we're citing our evidence. Because what did we read that made them joyful? The medicine had made it to Nome. Woohoo! Right, what a great reason to be joyful, to be excited, to be thrilled, to be happy. There are so many words we could put here, right? Expressing that mood. All right. Then, scholars, just a quick note before I let you dash off to work. So, you're working on page 20 and 21. That means back here on page 20, reread to clarify. And, scholars, I see the question why. Right? That means my favorite word is going to be over here, too. Oh my goodness, 3 times in the same lesson? Very excited. All right, and then reading for details. How many huskies did Gunner have pulling his sled? And then here, scholars, there are 2 vocabulary questions for eager and floundering. You've heard me say this in previous lessons. Go back to the beginning of this video, pause on the vocabulary slide, and write down those definitions. So you're working with eager and floundering, learning those words. Right? And then on page 21, you actually just have this vocabulary part to finish on synonyms and antonyms. Remember, synonym means the same, right? So another word for happy, a same, similar meaning for happy. And then antonym, remember, is the opposite. So what is the opposite of happy? Right? Then, scholars, remember, you'll want to submit photos of page 20 and 21, making sure I can see all of your answers on both pages. So, scholars, that means your homework, remember, is to finish your Chapter 8 work in your packet that you were just hearing about. You need to submit a photo of 2 pages today, pages 20 and 21 of the packet. Be sure I can see all of your answers to the questions on both of those pages. That is today's graded assignment. Thanks for joining me.